Women's roles are changing, and agriculture is no exception. A conference for women landowners is coming up in mid-Missouri. We'll find out more next on Show Me Ag. Welcome to Show Me Ag. I'm your host, Kyle Vickers. The role of women in agriculture is changing rapidly. They're not only helpmates, but also partners in many farm operations. They're in leadership positions in farm organizations and are in sales and management positions in agribusiness as well. Our guest this evening is Julie Brooks of the Johnson County Farm Service Agency. Julie, thank you for coming in. Let's identify kind of your job first. You're a federal government employee.
Yes.
Working here in Johnson County. Tell us a little bit about your job.
I am the county executive director. Basically, that's just a big term for manager of the office. But the Farm Service Agency pays out subsidies to farmers when prices are low or when the economy isn't keeping up with the farming. So and not only that, we have conservation programs that producers can come in and put their land into a conservation practice. Monetarily, it benefits them, and for us, it benefits the environment and the land use that's out there.
So in your position, people may not realize that Johnson County is still a big agricultural county, and you have several hundred farmers coming through your office.
Absolutely, and Johnson County also has a lot of diversity in this county. We have small operations, big operations, organic, conservation. It's just a big bag mix of all kinds of farming operations.
We talked a little bit about your position. You're the county executive director. It used to be called office manager.
Yes.
There were no women in those positions until probably in the 70s, but now there's been some equality.
Absolutely. In most cases, the women almost outnumber the men, not only in my position as a director, but most of the personnel in the office are program technicians, and they are women as well.
So as you're seeing people coming through your office, are more and more women involved in those day-to-day operations, signing up for farm programs, making some decisions about conservation and so on?
Yes, we see a lot of not only active, but they're working too. Their husbands send them in to do some of the farming operation decisions for them. I've seen a lot of increase through the last 12 years that I've been with the FSA of the interaction of women coming into our office and handling that part of the paperwork for them.
Well, we're going to find a good example of that. I know there's a conference coming up in November. We'll come back and talk about that. But first, we recently traveled to Higginsville, Missouri, where we met Cara Reikhof of GR Farms. After college, she and her husband, Garrett, returned to his family's generational farm to take over the family business, make it their own, and raise the next generation of Reikhofs.
I grew up a farm girl in Lexington where my mom and dad had corn and soybeans, but mainly operated a cow-calf operation. So livestock was kind of my expertise growing up. My brother and I traveled the countryside showing cattle and hogs through 4-H and FFA, the two organizations that I claim to really got me where I am right now. I served as the state 4-H president and then area FFA officers and did public speaking and contests through those organizations, and then attended the University of Missouri in Columbia where I majored in ag journalism with a minor in ag econ. I never thought I would come back to small town USA, and I told my mom probably 10 times I would never marry a farmer. So I've learned in my life, you never say never, because I've done both of those things. It took me a lot of experiences to realize what I wanted. I spent a summer in Prague, and I spent a summer in Washington, D.C., working for the then Congressman Ike Skelton, who helped me soul search and find my passions. I thought as a young child that to be in agriculture, you needed to be a farmer. And I knew that I didn't want to drive a tractor and that I didn't want to have really late nights. I grew up with my dad, unfortunately, not making it to every sporting event that I was involved in high school. And that really wasn't an attractive lifestyle to me. So I wasn't looking for a farmer to marry, and I wasn't looking to raise my children because I wanted their parents to be at those special events for them. But after the experience in DC and then internationally, I realized that agriculture is where my heart and passion was. It was my belonging. It's what I understood and knew. I just had to channel that in a place where was a good fit for me, and I didn't realize it, but a small town is a good fit for me. Garrett is the 6th generation farmer on his side of the family. I am the 3rd generation. So farming is what we know. Has it changed over the amount of time that we've known it? Absolutely. Women in agriculture today means something completely than it did even when my mom, as a farm wife. My grandma and Garrett's grandma, they did the proverbial bake the pies, had dinner ready and lunch ready whenever the boys needed it, and whenever, whatever they needed, they got from the females. And I wish that I could cook like that generation. My mom's generation and Garrett's mother, they had jobs off the farm. That was the generation that began the transition, if you will. And so they did the in-between. They still tried to play the cook, but they also provided financially by having that off-farm job. Me personally, I like to say I kind of have the best of both worlds. We, with Garrett's family, own a crop insurance business, and I act as the office manager for Crop Insurance Solutions that is officed in Higginsville, and I have a very flexible schedule. I would not be able to do what I do for our farm if I didn't have that job and flexibility. So I'm very thankful and blessed with that. So we do the crop insurance, and then during the busy times, Cara can be found in the tractor, usually pulling the grain cart. That's kind of my expertise when it comes to harvest time. And I do play the role of female in planting season. Garrett doesn't quite trust me with the big planter and tractor yet. Maybe I'll be upgraded sometime, but as of now, I'm kind of the lunch wagon for that season. But year-round, 365, payroll, accounts receivable, unfortunately, accounts payable, all of those things fall in my line of work. Garrett and I have worked to have a really good relationship. Whenever you're a farmer's wife, you have to be a lot of things, and we've figured out for us what works. Efficiency is key for Garrett and I here on GR Farms, and efficiency means putting the right people in the right places. Obviously, it fits for me with the crop insurance business. I can do that. It's kind of seasonal, and then I can really focus on GR Farms accounting in those non-seasonal times. Obviously, my best trade is not running a combine. So Garrett, as the manager day-to-day, he finds the task, and together we put those right people in it. What does that mean? That sometimes we don't have the home cooked meals, to deliver, and we go to the local restaurant and order out, and I deliver that to the field. But they're still getting fed. It's just different type of lunch menu, if you will, on our harvest crew than what it was on my grandma's and Garrett's grandma's. But the generations, the female didn't have an active role in the business. I think as agriculture has evolved and as it has gotten bigger, that business mentality and efficiency has come into play. And I honestly believe that offers so much opportunity for wives of farmers, again, that have the interest and have the stamina and ability to have that business relationship every day with your spouse. Every day that Garrett and I wake up, our goal is to better ourselves and our family, and that includes our kids. Whether that's teaching them new skills or showing them by example the way that life should be lived, that's what we try to do. We are trying to grow and be creative and exist so our children can, if they want to, return back to GR Farms. And if they don't want to call it GR Farms, make it their own. Because when they return, this farm shouldn't be the same. That's the way we were treated from his father, and that's the way we plan to make it for our kids. Garrett was never asked if he wanted to come back to the farm. I was never asked and never forced. You have to do what your heart tells you to do. And we didn't know what our heart was telling us to do until we were older. So at the ages that our kids are now, they can dream and talk about wanting to come back and farm with daddy. And honestly, I hope at least one of the three does do that. But as a parent, I just want them to be happy. And if that's in Higginsville, Missouri, driving green paint and going up and down a row combining, I think whether it's our oldest that's a girl, or our middle that's a girl, or our little son, any one of them can do that. And you know what? It might take all three of them. And I just pray that we give them the skills to be able to work together if that is the case.
Cara will be serving as the Master of Ceremonies of this year's Women in Agriculture Conference, which we'll talk about in a minute. She serves as a great example for women interested in pursuing a career in agriculture. Julie, let's talk a little bit about your background. Is your background on a farm?
Yes, it is. I'm actually one of 4 girls, but we grew up on a farm in Cooper County. It was the typical row crop, corn, soybeans, hog and cattle farm. I'll be honest, out of all 4 of us girls, I was the least likely to be an agriculture major, but I found myself, at the time it was CMSU, without a major, and a scholarship presented itself, and I thought, I could do this farm thing. I grew up there, and so it has really opened a lot of doors. I started with corporate agriculture in Kansas City before I came to USDA, but the spirit of the people is the same in the farming community. Everyone's just willing to help, and it's just a wonderful place to be, and they're wonderful people to work with. But
is this a typical story, or Cara's story, your story, the people that come into your office? Is that kind of a typical thing, that they've had that farm background and they can't get away from it? They really enjoy being in agriculture?
I would say the majority, yes, but we're also seeing some trends of, like especially in Johnson County, you've got people coming out from the city who now all at once want to own 5 acres, and they want to farm. And so they want help with what can they do with the land that they have, resourcefully, what are their options. And so you're kind of seeing a little bit of a trend of people who haven't necessarily had a farming background, but find that they like the lifestyle, the quietness of the country, and drawn to that area, and then essentially find themselves in the middle of agriculture even though they hadn't planned it. So it's both. It's a lot of traditional multi-generational families, but then we are also seeing some growth in the new, what we call one farm, small ownership operations. That's
kind of a phenomenon nationwide, where people are really feeling a call back to the land, raising their own food, etc. And those people are coming back to areas like Warrensburg, kind of not really urban, but semi-urban.
Yes, and that's what makes this county, it's a great draw, because there is that city life not far away, but you can, just 30 minutes short outside of that, you're in the peaceful country, and you've got all this green grass around you, or land, that you can do so much with. So,
do you still feel that for you and for others, there's some real challenges, because it's a male-dominated field, and people maybe don't expect to see that? You mentioned you're in corporate agriculture. Have we gotten past that?
I think we're getting there by all means, but I did have an experience in corporate ag where I had a gentleman who didn't want to talk to me on the phone, and he was polite, but he said, I just don't think you know what you're doing. And I said, well, give me a shot. And in the end he did, and he apologized because he said I had a preconceived idea. So there is some of that, but the family operations are becoming more husband and wife oriented, like Cara said. So you're seeing a little bit more of that equality, and not quite as much of a division. There are more women that are driving the equipment, and you see work in the fields, because it does take 2 a lot of times when the operations get big like that to do it. So
I know one of the things that this conference that's coming up is called Women Landowners. And I don't know if it's true in your county, but in many places in the Midwest, but particularly in Iowa, they say that a lot of the land is owned by single females who may be widows and have ended up with a property. That's a particular challenge because they need to know what to do with that land and how to maximize their returns.
Yes. Well, in our world, in the FSA world, a woman landowner is considered a socially disadvantaged because they're not the typical owner. And so a lot of these conferences are being developed to help women who now find that they've inherited land from their spouse or their parents, whoever it may be, and what to do with it. How do, you know, they've never done it before. So there are those challenges, and I would agree. I think a lot of the land has changed or shifted in that women being the actual owners of it, and not just the owner/operator.
Well, let's talk about the conference that's coming up in Higginsville and help us out with the dates and times.
It's November the 3rd, and it begins at 1 p.m. We have speakers from the Sheriff's Department. Our idea there was to speak on ways to protect your farm or signs to look for if people have been on your property and you may not be aware of it. We have a lady, she's actually within FSA, who's going to do a little bit of fun, a little cast iron cooking. You know, as Cara pointed out, there's a lot to being a woman in agriculture. You might be doing the field work, but you might be doing the housework. So we incorporated a little fun. And then we have Richard Fordyce, who's the director for the Missouri Department of Agriculture, and he's going to come just be our keynote speaker. Kind of, I would imagine, wow us with all kinds of information with agriculture and as far as where the trends are going and more importantly, the involvement of women as he sees it from a statewide standpoint.
Does this come out of an organization of women that meet regularly, or is this something that's just sort of stochastic that you just come up with?
Well, actually, the conference that's going on is Tri-County. It's Ray, Johnson, and Lafayette counties. And Lafayette County is the founder of all of this for the state of Missouri. They actually had the very first ever women's conference 16 years ago, and the idea was designed to get some more information out there to help the women, and the idea has spread throughout Missouri. I think we have somewhere around 15 different conferences that have popped up. So this was just brought up, and how it was originally developed was we encouraged some ladies or women operators to come in and serve on what we call the steering committee, and we got their ideas for what they would want to learn, what they would want to do. And so they're volunteer. They do this in their extra time, as little as it may be, but they come in, and there's some of us from the office staff, but we just kind of sit down and coordinate the event each year.
So some of these are going on across the state in other similar circumstances, and even though yours is kind of a tri-county deal, I assume others in our viewing area would be welcome to attend as well.
Oh, absolutely. We never discourage, and we actually don't even discourage men. We've had several men come in the past. It's just more designed to help. You know, the men may be bored because they already know the information, where some of the women may be learning it for the first time or refreshing their skills. So, but we encourage everyone who's in the area, if you want, stop by or you know, send in your registration and let us know you want to come. I
want to put you on the spot. Is there a website or something that people can go to and find out a little bit more about this?
We don't have a website created just yet. We're in the process of working on that, but you are welcome to call the Johnson County FSA office, the Lafayette County FSA office, or even the Ray County office, as well as Missouri Extension. University Extension in Higginsville is actually holding a lot of our information, taking the registrations, so they'd be happy to answer any questions that you have there as well.
And so let's look into the crystal ball a little bit. How do you see things? Are things going to continue to move? Are you seeing any women that are sole operators of their farm? I think there are a few around, but I wondered if that's going to become more prevalent. Things are getting physically easier on a farm, more equipment and so on. I wonder if more women will take over sole responsibility.
Yes, I mean, that's kind of a tough question. What I see coming through for our office here locally, the women who have become owners, you have a lot of renters, so you have a lot of farmers that are willing to help them out and take on the physical part of it. So I think as long as the women owners feel that they're educated enough to keep track of those records and their farming operations, they're going to continue to do that. But I've also seen, and they're more on the older side of things, where they don't feel they're as up to date with the details, and those unfortunately are, in the end, they end up selling the land or transferring it down to other family members. But so it's kind of a mixed answer there. It's kind of dependent upon your area, and definitely your age in that area, I think, plays a role in it.
So let's talk a little bit about your job in the farm program so that people will understand. Let's go back over some of the things that your office helps take care of. I know farmers are going to be excited that there's some checks coming out that a result of farm programs. Yes,
the Farm Bill this time included more of a safety net program, where the farmers in the past were used to a guaranteed program. They got a check every year regardless of what the markets were doing. The new Farm Bill was more targeted towards a safety net. When the price falls, it would trigger a payment, and the farmers would then get a subsidy. This was the 2014 Farm Bill. We did not have any payments in 2014, and they're always a year behind, but we found out and have been paying 2015 payments. And so for us, it's always nice to be able to give that money back to the producers and help them out. But it's also, it makes us feel good about our jobs and what we're able to do.
Those payments are based on a little bit of a shortfall on yield, but really it has to do more with the collapsing price, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Your yields and base acres were all established kind of at the beginning, and those are set for the entirety of the Farm Bill. But you're right, it's the market. When the prices fall or change enough that it triggers a payment, that's what's generating the payments that we have going out now.
You also have some conservation programs that you can people can apply for through your office. Would you want to talk about that?
Yes, we have the conservation programs, or CRP as we call it. You can do general grass practices. We just finished a general sign up. I'm not sure if there's going to be one next year, but we do have some continuous practices that you can do all the time. Those are mostly field buffers, filter strips around the edges in certain areas. We have an excellent private land conservationist housed in our office that is always willing to go out to look at your field and kind of help outline any options and what you may be able to do. But one of the most popular ones this late summer or fall has been a pollinator habitat that helped bring in the monarch butterflies. So, they were planting forbs and legumes out there to kind of help bring in those species of butterflies and increase that around the state. So those are popular ones for people who don't really want to plant corn or soybeans. They can kind of just leave it in grass out there and go with it.
You also have some loan programs that are available through the FSA. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. In fact, here in Johnson County, just in the last week, we loaned out almost $250,000 in the marketing grain program. That program is where producers store their corn or soybeans in their grain bin to market at a later price, and we loan them based on the loan rate and the bushels that they have. And so it gives them a little bit of operating capital right now, and it gives them 9 months to pay off that loan. In some cases, they can actually sell it at a point and make a marketing gain on that, which helps them out in the end. So that's been very popular. And the other one we have is building the grain bins, which is a farm storage facility loan program. And we loan, I think this month the rate is like 1.6%. So it's a very small percent to put up a $50,000 grain bin. So it's a great program, and a lot of producers have really taken advantage of it.
And also through your office, I believe, farm ownership and operating loans, or
yes,
at least guarantees.
And I can tell you Johnson County has the largest rate in the state of Missouri in terms of loans. So we see a lot of that going out the door. We've had an increase in the youth loans. Though a lot of them are using it for like their FFA projects. They can come in and we'll loan them up to $5,000, maybe to start with cattle, or some I think have even increased, like in the chicken poultry area, as far as projects go.
Well, let's come back one more time before we close and talk, announce the conference and when and where.
It's the 2016 Women Landowners Conference. It's held at the American Legion building in Higginsville on Thursday, November the 3rd at 1 p.m.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid, Julie, thank you for being with us tonight. And thanks to Cara Reikhof for allowing us to visit GR Farms and visit with her as well. But that's all the time we have for tonight. Before we go, we'd also like to thank you, our viewers, for tuning in to Show Me Ag. Be sure to tune in next time for another look at a topic touching rural Missouri. For everyone here at CamWest and myself, good night. We're also very interested in what you have to say. So if you have feedback you'd like to share with us, you can email us at showmeag@camos.org or find us on Facebook.